I greet you in the name and with the love and joy of Jesus, who is the Christ. It's my pleasure to introduce this video on the work that we've been doing in dismantling racism. Now, over this past year, the murder of George Floyd, the killing of Breonna Taylor and so many other unarmed people of color, the acts of violence against and murder of countless Asian Americans, and the hateful, harmful acts of vandalism against synagogues have heightened the awareness of many to the evil, destructive, despicable nature of racism. And this year, because of the pandemic, many have realized that racism manifests itself in many systems like the educational system, like the economic system, and like the healthcare system. It manifests itself creating inequality and disparities in these systems. As a result of all of this heightened awareness over the past year, many have realized that as disciples of Jesus the Christ, we can no longer sit idly by without taking proactive steps to address the many manifestations of racism in this country. In order to be faithful to our baptismal vows, we must resist evil, injustice, and oppression in whatever form they present themselves, even when they present themselves as racism. We must be proactive in these efforts to dismantle the system of racism. So I hope that as you view this presentation on dismantling racism, you will be inspired by God to do your best as a disciple of Jesus Christ, to proclaim good news to those who are poor in spirit because they are tired of fighting racism. I hope that you'll be persuaded to proclaim liberty to those who are imprisoned by their own discriminatory ways of thinking, by their own learning of what it is to be racist. I hope that you will be motivated to proclaim recovery of sight to those who are blinded by their privilege. And I hope that you will be energized to work to set free those who have been oppressed. Finally, I hope you're convinced to take thou authority to do this work. Because after all, we are all disciples of Jesus, who is the Christ, and who we have proclaimed as an annual conference has called us to focus on this work. Be inspired. Be energized. Take authority.
Grace and peace to you. I'm Drew Gordon, co-chair of the Indiana District Anti-Racism Team. What we decided to do was we wanted to show you some of the things that the anti-racism teams from the different districts are doing to get out into the community. They're actually focusing on two things. One is education, while the other is action. Now, I'm thrilled to pass along the Erie-Meadville Anti-Racism Team report. Sarah Roncolato submitted this, and just to pass along the information that they're doing right now. They've been doing book and film studies in our churches, most notably of Debbie Irving's Waking Up White and Brian Stevenson's Just Mercy. And with the support of the district office, Tom and Connie Hoke led a district-wide Waking Up White book study. Bob Klingler led 2 Zoom sessions on the presence of white supremacist organizations and activities in the district. And in February, they collaborated with the Erie Arts and Culture for a virtual tour of Erie Public Art celebrating the contribution of Erie's Black leaders. In May, Bob Klinger and Sarah Roncolato led a 4-week Zoom district discipleship class, Justice or Just Us, the biblical command to confront racism.
Hi, I'm Reverend Doug Dyson, and I get the privilege of sharing with you, as chair of the Franklin District Anti-Racism Team, what our team's been up to for the past year here in the Franklin District. This year, we focused our energies on creating a virtual and hybrid platform where we could gather people together both online and as COVID eased in person, in satellite locations in smaller groups, so that we could come together to have some vital discussions. How we created those discussions was an interesting process where we called people together before COVID hit and wanted to talk about these uncomfortable, difficult conversations that we need to have together as the church. And that led to a process where we discerned that there were several areas of difficult conversations that we needed to have. And that led us to develop an event we called Things We Don't Talk About at Church. Now, our mandate is to discuss and to work on anti-racism, and so our first subject was to have a speaker come, and Miss Deborah Mason, Reverend Deborah Mason, came and led us in a discussion on how do we begin to have discussion about racism in the church. One of the topics we don't talk about in church. The next subject we wanted to talk about, the next ism we wanted to talk about in church was sexism. How do we begin to have a conversation about sexism and sex discrimination in the church? And so Reverend Alice Weaver Dunn and her number one ally, her husband, Reverend Keith Dunn, came and led us through a discussion on beginning to have conversations about sexism and sex discrimination in the church, both amongst clergy and laity in leadership in the church. And then finally, we recognize that one of the serious issues we have that we don't like to talk about in the church is when we have conflict in the church, when we have toxic relationships, what we called church bullying. And so we had Reverend Wade Berkey come and lead us in a discussion about talking about church bullying and toxic relationships. And so our first event for the year that we could have post-COVID was difficult conversations, or things we don't talk about in church. Our future plan coming up for the fall is to have another hybrid event where we will have it open for our district and across the connection through virtual registration. More things we don't talk about in church. We'll be diving deeper into the topic of discussing racism in the church and how we can become anti-racists. What's the next area we need to focus on to begin to dismantle racism in Western Pennsylvania and specifically in the Franklin district. And then we will be adding two more topics that are difficult for us to talk about, those things we don't talk about in church. And we look forward to having you join us either virtually or one of our satellite locations and being part of those discussions. But I thank you for the opportunity to share with you today what we've been up to here in the Franklin district.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bob Trask, and I am the co-chair of the Indiana District Dismantling Racism team. The district anti-racism team engaged in a book discussion of Ibram Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. We covered the content of the book in 6 Zoom sessions with myself and Drew Gordon acting as the facilitators. Our goal was to invite people into an open and honest conversation about race and racism by creating a safe and sacred space that allowed that to happen. Kendi writes, the good news is that racists and anti-racists are not fixed identities. We can be racist one minute and anti-racist the next. What we say about race, what we do about race in each moment determines what, not who we are. So on Tuesday evenings, there were 7 or 8 of us, and we talked about all kinds of things: definitions, power, biology, ethnicity, body, culture, behavior, color, white, black, class, in the hope that we might begin building an anti-racist culture here on the Indiana District. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be inviting folks to become a white ally by offering trainings aimed at promoting racial equity. And we're going to do that in a real specific way. We're going to use what's called the RACE method: reflect, ask, connect, and expand. We're going to learn how to use active listening skills, empathy, personal storytelling. We'll be offering the RACE Method 101 course. It's a self-paced, on-demand learning course, and it's all online. Do it at your own pace. And we've made provision for 12 individuals to be a part of that. Registration will be open soon. Then there's the White Ally Toolkit workbook and one-day White Ally Toolkit seminar. All of those are things that we will do to begin to engage not racists, but racial skeptics. Thank you for spending some time with us today, and I hope that God will bless your efforts at the conference level and at the district level. Thank you very much.
I'm with Pastor Jeff Kahn of the Greensburg District. And Pastor Jeff, you're part of the anti-racism team there in Greensburg. What are some of the things that you've been doing as part of your district anti-racism team?
Okay, Drew. Yeah, I'm the chair. I'd say I've been chair about 2 years. We started out meeting at the Healthy Village Learning Institute in McKeesport, which has been very interesting. It's a great exhibit, history. That kind of inspired us. I have to give a lot of credit to our district superintendent, Patricia Nelson, who really kind of shaped the committee and got us all together. The main task we had initially was to put together the Martin Luther King Jr. worship service, which would be a yearly event, often with Greensburg and Pittsburgh districts. This past year, for the first time, it was virtual. And so we're proud of that accomplishment with Bill Jacka. He filmed us at Oakmont United Methodist. And so everybody did their part separately. They were all assembled together. Reverend Deborah Mason preached. The rest of us, some participants, we had music. And that was on, I think, the conference YouTube channel. A second thing we would do would be try to do a Bible study during Lent, especially. So one of our members, Ron Wanless, who's retired, has a huge amount of experience in this field and activism in general and advocacy. He wrote a really good Bible study that a couple of the churches did, a couple of my churches did, and hopefully some others. We have it, available to people to email to them if they want to tap into that. And then we would try to kind of do an additional event. And instead of just picking one event this year, we wound up sort of going in the direction of something new to us was the IDI, the Intercultural Development Inventory, which is an online survey that has to be accessed by a trained coordinator and a special code and things like that. And Peggy Ward and Dawn Hargraves led that for a conference. So Ed Shenick, who's one of our members at Monroeville United Methodist, had quite a few of his members, most of our team, and I think a few others as well, that took this inventory. And it kind of grades you, I think, on about 5 different possible places on the continuum of where you are in understanding your own culture and other cultures and how they relate. Ed, on his end, has done several book studies, Witnessing Whiteness, some videos about white fragility. So these were all still in person originally. Since then, there's a great book study that, if I can find it on my phone here, that Peggy Ward led us in. It's like a history of complicity of the Christian church in general, which often, instead of being a champion of inclusion, sided with racism and made some really terrible compromises along the way.
How are you going forth in the Greensburg district to continue on with looking at anti-racism and different types of matters?
Yeah, our DS is helping us to kind of put together a strategic plan. This was suggested by the Bishop. Bishop Morkakoy met with our district and I think many other district anti-racism teams. So she strongly suggested a strategic plan. So I think we're hoping to do that IDI study every year, making that available, making sure everybody knew how to access it. Every district, every church, and then something called Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. Probably we'll do those 2 studies and then something else that we'll choose each year.
Hello, my name is Tracy Merrick. On behalf of the Pittsburgh District Anti-Racism Team, I would like to take a couple of moments to share with you some of the activities we've been involved in over the last year or so. By way of background, the Pittsburgh District has recently adopted a vision statement. Within that document is a core value which relates directly to the work of the Anti-Racism Team: to confront systemic racism and oppression by actively eliminating disparities and inequities in the church and in society. The document also lists 2 objectives that have been assigned to the District Anti-Racism Team. Objective 1, host at least one multi-location, multi-session training course to equip churches to deal with systemic racism in the church and in society. And the second objective, on a regular basis, communicate multiple concrete examples, action steps, and possible partnerships for ways to actively confront systemic racism in the church and in society. In January and February of 2020, the District Anti-Racism Team offered a series of 4 sessions in 3 different locations entitled Conversations About Race. This was based on the video series, Racism, the Power of an Illusion. For many of the participants, it was an opportunity for the first time to think about and to talk about issues of race, racism, and anti-racism work. As a follow-up in 2021, we will be offering 2 classes. One, offered in the fall, will be an introductory level series. The second, offered this summer for 12 weeks, will be entitled Be an Anti-Racist, based on Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, and the accompanying workbook, which he has also authored. We have some other initiatives that are underway as a district anti-racism team as well. We are looking forward to partnering with a team of volunteers that have already been identified to offer a meaningful and vibrant worship experience around Martin Luther King Day in January 2022. We are also in the process of organizing what we are calling a district anti-racism network. This will be a network of folks who have self-identified as individuals who want to be informed as training opportunities arise, as opportunities for conversation come up, and as issues arise that might need immediate attention. In addition, every church in the Pittsburgh district is being encouraged to consider a study or identify a project dealing with issues of anti-racism work. If you have any questions about what we've been doing or would like to talk further, please don't hesitate to contact any member of the Pittsburgh District Anti-Racism Team or me, and we'll be glad to talk with you. Thank you again for this opportunity to share.
Hi, I am Peggy Boyd, Chairperson of the Western Pennsylvania Commission on Religion and Race, commonly referred to as CORE. In 1968, the newly formed United Methodist Church established the General Commission on Religion and Race to hold it accountable to its commitment to reject the sin of racism in every aspect of the life of the church. CORE's responsibilities are similar. However, we are more focused and contextualized in the annual conferences. Some of our responsibilities include intercultural competency, institutional equity, vital conversations, the review and making of recommendations for total inclusiveness and equity in conference staff, boards, agencies, commissions, and committees, resource and training with local congregations, especially those in cross-racial, cross-cultural ministry, consulting with the Board of Ministry to ensure racial, ethnic inclusion and equity, and consulting and coordinating with conference leadership in support of racial and social justice concerns. In recent years, CORE's focus has included intercultural competency. We introduced the Intercultural Development Inventory into the annual conference. We've just had a 3rd qualified administrator trained, and in early 2021, we have completed 2 tracks of training designed to support individuals to develop and work on the individualized development plans, something that has been shown to increase cultural competency. Cross-cultural, cross-racial ministry has been a big focus. We are completing our 1st year of trained teams walking alongside congregations in cross-racial, cross-cultural ministry to support, guide, and nurture growth in intercultural competency and anti-racism toward more fruitful partnerships between cross-racial, cross-cultural clergy and congregations. As we have moved into our phase 2, which includes expanding the number of teams and adding resource teams, we have met some resistance. Sadly, this is to be expected in this work. In the second half of 2021, we are beginning new and exciting work, broadening our focus to look at the infrastructure in the conference for developing interculturally competent, anti-racist individuals, congregations, as well as committees, agencies, etc. And that includes extending that work as we begin to partner with other committees to launch a major event in 2022 that will celebrate, train, and launch the development of interculturally competent, anti-racist individuals and structures within Western Pennsylvania.
Greetings on this beautiful day in Western Pennsylvania. May it be an indication of our hope for dismantling racism in our institutions and in our society at large. My name is Renee Michael, and I serve as co-chair for the Conference ART, otherwise known as the Conference Anti-Racism Team. Some of our 2021 work includes racial sensitivity workshops at Drummondville for camp deans and camp counselors, a workshop on improving communications about hard topics and race for a local congregation. Coming soon, podcasts featuring innovative conversations about race. We will do all of these things even as we continue in partnership with our DDI, our district superintendents and cabinet, our district anti-racism teams, and for you as needed. May the Lord make our love increase and overflow for God, for each other, and for everyone else. In Jesus' name, amen.